Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is a lady called Diane Tucker. Diane is a founder, she's a COO, she's a coach, she's a consultant, and just one of the most incredible women that I've ever had the chance of speaking to. Her story is completely crazy. You really have to listen to it to understand. So, Diane, thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So, after our last conversation, I was a little bit, very much blown away by your story. So, before we had our first call, like 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I did a little bit of research on you. And Christopher Lafayette, also, who I had on my podcast, told me a little bit about you as well. But he didn't really tell me about your background and all the things that you've been through over the past, I'm not even sure how many years it's been. But I was completely blown away by you as a person, how incredibly optimistic you are, positive after everything you've been through. So I think a good place to start is at the beginning. And because for people listening, they may probably have no idea who you are. They probably have no idea who I am either. So if we can start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about your upbringing and the things that, sort of happened as you got older. And then maybe I'll jump in with some questions along the way.
Definitely. So, my upbringing, I grew up in Southern California in the high desert in the heat, triple digits every summer. To this day, I do not like the heat. I love cool, cold weather where I can bundle up. But my upbringing is one of a very close family. 2 parents, 4 kids. We grew up very tight, very niche, faith-based family. But because of our dynamics, we're very close. We'd always go out and be at a restaurant and people would walk by. Can we come sit at your guys' table? You guys are having so much fun. That's what I grew up in, especially it's Thursday night. We're supposed to be going to bed. Dad's bumping the Earth, Wind, and Fire in the den, and we've got our air instruments and dancing and recording videos and playing around. And Mom's like, okay, everybody needs to go to bed. That's the type of household I grew up in. So when people are like, Diane, you're always bubbly, you're always positive, that's just something that is what I eat, drink, and breathe. When I'm having a rough spot connecting with my parents or my sister, my brothers, being able to talk to that lifeline for me is just huge. And so, but alongside that, during my youth, I dealt with a lot of pain. I had headaches, and being a young girl, parents are like, wait, you don't even know what a headache is. What do you mean you have a headache? And so I developed very early, come to find out in my, when I was 18, did my first MRI, and they're like, you have a pituitary brain tumor. That throws off all your hormones. But they're like, that's not what's causing the headaches. And so because of school and upbringing and I just want to backtrack a little thing I missed out. One of the things I really wanted to add was growing up, my mom was the caretaker, my dad worked. And so during the summers, Mom would have us learn our Bible verses and we'd be doing yard work or whatnot. And so me and my siblings would turn our memory verses into a song. And then when Dad got home, we got to present it and do a little showcase of everything we learned that day. And so it was like Mama's summer boot camp. And it was just amazing. But back to the health aspect of things, I had a full ride at DeVry because of my grades, but I had to drop out of college 2 times. Once after DeVry, then I went to community college, did 2 associates there, was only there 2 semesters because of all my credits that transferred in from DeVry. And my counselor would tell me, he's like, you are sneaky. I was like, I'm not sneaky. I just know the curriculum. I read the manual. I know what I need to graduate. So I didn't need to take history. I didn't need to take another language. And I got my 2 associates on what I needed to graduate from. And then there went to Azusa Pacific University and was studying web and information technology. But still, again, working full-time, going to school full-time, and dealing with all that head pain, I had to drop out yet again. So didn't receive my bachelor's, having to drop out.
And
as I was working,
and just
go ahead.
So people can get like an understanding of like these headache pains and these hip pains. Like, okay, most people have a scale that they know about in terms of like pain, but like my girlfriend always kind of takes the piss out of me a little bit because she thinks I've got a very low pain threshold, and women actually are known to have a much higher pain threshold than men. So
Hi.
like on like a woman's scale, from 10 being the highest and 0 being obviously no pain at all. Like what levels of pain are we talking about here to give some context?
I broke the scale pane. So that 10 is nothing for me. If I'm at a 10, I'm doing good. I'm working around, moving. I've had pain some days where I'm crawling on the floor trying to get to the bathroom because I can't move. It's that bad. Um, and some days you just want to be in a corner crying because you're just like, what can I do? Nothing's really helping and taking away this pain. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the
And
Richter scale
and
for me.
and what
So
and to the start with, like, was there medication prescribed to you? Because I'm guessing the doctor's like, God, you've got to take something, right? You have to.
oh yes, I've tried everything. They went through all the different narcotics that they had, Vicodin and what
Yeah.
have you. And so some college days I'd be sleeping half the day because I took the pain medicine, and then I'd be medicated, but then still hurting.
Yeah.
That is and that's why I'm like, why?
Yeah. Okay.
So it was
Yeah.
rough.
And so what was actually pulling you through these college days then? So like I'm not surprised that you had to drop out so many times. And at what point did it get to the
Hmm.
where you were like, okay, I have to stop here, and what were the next steps along the line from that?
Right. So for me, I'm like, well, I have to get my degree. Everybody goes to college. Everybody needs that piece of paper to succeed and be successful. I have to do this. And then there'll just be days where I'm like, I can't move. I'm falling behind in class, or because my job was an hour and a half away, I couldn't do both. So I'm paying my way through college now that I'm a Azusa Pacific. That's a 40 grand a year college at the time. And I couldn't do the drive and then come back and do classes. So I'm like, do I make a living? Do I keep trying to go to college? So that was one aspect where I'm like, got to
Yeah.
keep doing this. But even on those hard days, what keeps me through? My faith. I'm going to be honest with you. If I didn't have it, there's no way I would be where I am today. And then also that family and friends surrounding the encouragement and just positivity and just being uplifted.
That's huge.
And then it got to that point. Yeah. And then it got to that point where it's like, this piece of paper is not going to define everything in life. I got to let it go.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like you talk about your support group and having friends, family, people that you can fall back on that won't judge you for when you say, "Man, I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like shit today," and you can just be so
Mm-hmm.
open and honest with them. That is like the best antidepressant. That is the best. Uh,
It's
it's
good
yeah, it's,
medicine.
it's unbelievable medicine. It
It's
really
good
is. And
medicine.
then, so where did you go from there then? So like at that point, you've dropped out. Tell me how that sort of progressed.
So now I'm working full time as a human resource payroll manager down in Orange County area. And actually, before that, the company I was at, not just my inner circle of friends and family, but even those I was around in the public and the corporate world. I was working for a company, and they're like, Diane, we can't pay you what you're worth, because it was the medical. They were building out medical devices, and they're barely making ends meet. But they're like, we know you're having hardships with a car. Go pick out a car with our VP of engineering. And I'm like, I'm in my 20s, young Black girl working at this company for the CEO, and he tells me to go with the VP of engineering to go pick out a car that I want. That just doesn't happen. And so all through college, I was like, I'm going to have a Toyota Avalon. I'm going to have a Toyota Avalon. That was my car, my dreams. And I came back with a forest green Toyota Avalon that day and was hyped.
I can imagine.
But then the next company I was at was I was a human resource payroll manager for an electrical contracting company. So now I'm working full time. The only reason why I got that position is the lady who had had it before decided to retire, and I was the office manager. And they're like, Diane, well, she's taken on a lot. She has health issues. Will you come in and help her? So it started as me just being her assistant. 3 months later, she left, and I was the department head and running it. And so now I'm, 24, 25 now, running 300 personnel, HR, one person department. And I love numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, well, you have lowered the issues in payroll. You've increased the speed. You get it out. And so it was just amazing to be noticed for, okay, I know what I'm doing. And here I am. They had built a new office and we moved. And so you had it was a family owned company. The father was the CEO. Then you have my huge office upstairs. And then next to me was the CFO. So here I am, 23, 24, and I'm in between these two guys. And I'm like, I love my
You're
office.
like, I've made it. Like, this is it, right? You're like, this is so cool.
And I was like, I dropped out, but I still made it.
and wait, and at this point, like, again, I feel like you're dodging around this bit. Like, obviously things were good at that point, right? Like in terms of, but like, and the health, back to the health again. How was that during this point? So you're firing on all cylinders. You're doing really good in your career. You feel like you're smashing it. But what's going on in the background? And did your colleagues know about
Um, they knew I was hurting a bit, but they didn't know to what extent. And my sister had found a chiropractor, Dr. Michael Corey, lifesaver. He would allow me to see him in the morning, at lunchtime, and when I got off work. And so I went the natural route, and he was helping me out so much just to get through those patches. I'd do 4 hours, and then I lived about 15 minutes away from where I worked. And so sometimes at lunch, I'm like, I'm going home. I took a nap, closed my eyes, just getting somewhere dark and quiet. And so, yeah, still at this time, I hadn't had anyone find what was going on
it?
yet, and why I was having the headaches while I was doing this
Whoa.
work.
Okay. So what age is this now? So we're up to like you're 24 at this point, 25?
I'm
Okay.
24. Surgery happened when I was
Okay.
25.
And then what was the I want to say the stick that broke the camel's back. What was the point that you went in for the next checkup then? Like did
Well, all through this time, I've still been going to doctors all over, specialist upon
and what are
specialist.
they saying to you then? Are they saying that they can't find out what it is? They're not sure. Maybe you just need to rest. That's classic what doctors always say. You know, it's just, oh, just rest it. You'll be fine.
The people are like, oh, you're just getting migraines, get Botox. Or so no one knew as of yet. And they were doing test upon test. And I've been to UCLA, USC, all of the Southern California high places. Then finally, while I was in Orange County, I went to a neurologist there. He did an MRI and he says, well, you have a cyst on your brain. The cyst is putting pressure on the brain, causing the headaches. So it was about the size of a large grape, is what he was saying, was putting pressure on my brain. So on the right back side of the head is where he said. And so he's like, we can do the surgery and remove it, and you won't have any more headaches. The side effects could be blood clots, infections, different things like that. Just mild type of side effects that he said.
All the risks that come with, but I'm guessing that's a pretty standard procedure, even though it's on the brain, and I don't think there's not much that's too standard on the brain, but it was probably, was it just like, okay, we're just going to go in, put you under, and you're going to come out?
Yes. And put me under. And so I had never broken a bone before. I only had stitches once over an eye when I was roller skating, and that was it. And so here I am in the room, and I was like, okay, I need to have brain surgery so I don't have any more headaches. You want to know what the important thing on my brain was? What are you going to do to my hair? If we're cutting this off, this ain't going to work.
That sounds like me as well. I'm very precious of my hair as well. So I would be the exact same.
That was the first question out of my. He's like, that's fine. We're just going to part it. I was like, because I love my hair. We're just going to part it. We're not going to cut it. I was like, okay, we can do it. Now, mind you, I've been hurting since a kid. And the
really
first thing out of my mouth is, what do you do? I do love my hair. I'm growing it out. Sorry.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good one.
So he's like, we're just going to part it. And then, because it was a craniotomy, they had to cut the bone, they had to do everything. And so I was like, okay, let's go for it. So I have brain surgery.
How long is this taking? So is it like a 2 hour?
It's about a couple months. You mean the whole surgery? How long the surgery take? It was supposed to take about 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
it took longer. My parents are there, my sister's there, my little brother is there. It took longer than it was supposed to, so they were getting worried and concerned. Um, and like I said, I had never had a surgery before, and so I woke up when they're wheeling me from. I woke up during transition in one of the times, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can't see, but I think it's just the anesthesia. And so maybe when I wake up later, I'm just groggy. It's my first
Yeah.
time waking up. Later on, everything will be fine. So that night, I'm in ICU. I wake up again. I'm no longer like medicated, so I know okay. I'm
Yeah.
out of the anesthesia part. I still can't see. I
Yeah, I
start
was going to
freaking out.
say, like, what can even go through your brain at that point?
I don't remember what was going through my brain and what was all coming out of my mouth, but I'm glad who was sitting next to my bed when I woke up, which was my
Mhm.
father. And he calmed me down because I was
Yeah.
losing it. Double vision was so bad, I couldn't make out anyone in front of me. My eyes were not in sync. It was so blurry. And so if I closed an eye, then I could kind of see what was going on. But with both my eyes open, I couldn't. And I was like, Dad, I can't see. Dad. And so the more I said it, the more I
Yeah.
started getting worked up. And he's like,
Yeah.
baby, calm down, calm down. It's okay. And so I was so thankful that my father was next to me when I woke up. It took 3 months for my vision to line up. So now if I look straight ahead at the camera, I see one. I look anywhere else around, I do like this, you move into two. I don't know if when I moved, you saw my eye
Whoa.
roll up. So my eyes are not in sync.
Still.
Um, so still, but if I'm looking straight ahead and pain is not off the charts, I'm okay. If pain's off the charts, even looking
And
straight ahead, double
and
vision the
and
back.
what went on in that 3 month period? Are you fully in hospital at this point? Like, are you basically there the whole time?
No, I was in hospital for about a week. I don't know if anybody's been on my bio page, but you'll see a picture of me with a bandage around my head and a
Yeah.
gentleman behind me. That's my father. And so that was surgery day. So I was in the hospital for about a week.
And what do they say to you then? Are they
They had
just
me
like,
stand up
just
that
go
night.
home? You'll
The doctor, yeah, they sent me home. I finally got to see the gentleman who did the surgery for 2.5, for 3 years after surgery. He just kept telling me, oh, it's a side effect, which was not listed. When, like I said, he listed all the side effects. That was not one of them. And he was just like, oh, we'll figure out what's going on. And he strung me on for 3 years. But I didn't know after that 3 years, that's the cutoff time for when you can sue. Had no idea. So it was outside. Once that date hit, he's like, oh, I no longer need to see you. You're fine. Um, yeah, it was frustrating to say the
Yeah.
least. I went back to work 3 months after surgery, but during that time I had my eye patch on. I'd be at my parents' house and they make me sit in the corner. Close your eyes. I don't want to close my
Yeah.
eyes.
I'm amazed that you can laugh at this. But I guess you have to see the bright side,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's like I reverted back to like a 2, 3 year old. I'd eat every 2 hours. I'd be hungry again. I had my walker, and if I left my cell phone, because I stayed at my parents recovering, if I left my cell phone up on the counter, and mom's like, "You forgot your pacifier.
yeah,
Here."
I can imagine.
Physical therapy was rough. They were trying to get my eyes to line
Yeah.
back up, and so walking from the living room back to my room at the time after one physical therapy session, I blacked out. My little brother's behind me, and all he keeps hearing is "whoa, whoa, whoa," and I blacked out, and I hit my chin on a desk, and then came to. So now I've knocked my teeth out of place. So it was just like one thing after
That
another.
is, yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah,
It's,
it's not ideal.
and I don't know how, I know the medical system in the Netherlands and the US is very different here. So, like, that's all. Do you have to pay for that kind of stuff? Is that all like, is it health insurance? How does that kind of work? 'Cause I'm out of
You
touch
do
with
have health insurance, but it only covers a portion of it. So you're still liable for the other
that. Okay.
portion. And so mostly surgery was covered and most of physical therapy was covered,
Yeah.
but not all of it. But there is a bend or kind of turn. Most people would be like, that's not a good bend. But after that, I go back to work for 3 months. I go back to work after my 3 month recovery. My dad was not happy about that part. He's like, you need to stay home and rest. No, I'm
Yeah.
going back to work. I'm going back home, going back to my place.
That's
I'm
the
good.
typical dad.
So I go back to, yeah, I'm a daddy's girl. I go back to my lovely office and doing work again. And after about a year or so, I noticed my decline. And surgery caused more pain than I had at the beginning. So the headaches I had before surgery, that was cakewalk. The headaches I deal with now, mm-mm.
And yeah,
So he nicked the optic nerve. He nicked something in the optic nerve. And then when my nerves grew back, instead of it growing straight like this, it grew and formed neuralgia. So I started dealing with nerve pain on top of everything else.
nerve pain. Like I've only ever experienced nerve pain like in my teeth, you know, and that is excruciating. So I can't even I can't even comprehend what that's like.
Yeah. So now when pain gets bad, it messes with thinking. And so I'm dealing with numbers. One day I paid a gentleman for a whole year in 1 week. I caught it before I sent it out. But I went to my boss and I was like, I'm starting to notice things aren't where they should be. And I can't keep doing this anymore. And
Very honest of
so
you.
I told him, I said, mm-hmm. And they were amazing. I let them know, I said, hire someone, I'll train them, because I created all the manuals, the SOPs, their whole department on how to run things. Everything else was in the other lady's head. And so now they brought someone in, I trained her, and I went on permanent disability at the age 27. But I had to fight for it. So I'd go into Social Security here in the States, and they're like, you're in your 20s, you walked in, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you.
Wow.
And so mine went all the way to court. And I was thankful that I have a neuro-ophthalmologist. Evidently, he was the best in the nation. And when we got to court, the state or the federal department has their own health legal person. And so when he saw who my doctor was on the paperwork, he's like, that's your doctor? That's who? Why are we even here? If that's her doctor, what he's saying is going. And in not even 3 minutes, I had disability approved.
He must have been a good
just because they
doctor.
saw his name. Yeah.
Okay.
He was the best neuro-ophthalmologist.
Okay, and then so at this point, you're on disability benefits. You're not working. What are you currently doing? What's going through your head at this point? Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm going
I can
stir
imagine
crazy.
somebody like you, like being a bit of a workaholic. Always needing to do stuff, always needing to be driving towards something. You must have been driving people crazy and yourself crazy.
Yes, I was bored out of my mind. So I started helping other people who had businesses and they needed their taxes done, and they had a box of receipts, and they're like, can you put our receipts in order so we can do our taxes? So I would do that. Or I would build out their websites or help consult them on how to build their own companies. And it started progressing that people are like, oh, I need to build a company. I heard that you can help us. Can you be one of our founders, help us launch this company? And so I started doing consulting and helping other people. And I was like, wait a minute, everybody else's dreams and stuff's going on, but mine's on the back burner. I'm helping everyone else. Why don't I do some of the ideas I have? And so in 2011, I started my first company. Diane means divine. And so divine movement, making successful individuals. I was like, okay, I'm going to go help other people be successful. And I started doing K-12 STEM education while consulting other people's companies on the
and
side
that's
under that
mainly
name.
for
So
operations, right? So is that what does that kind of entail then?
That was operations. It was accounting. It was web design, marketing design.
Yeah,
I'm a computer geek. If it plugs up, I love it.
do you have a technical background then? So like
I do. I was born in the 80s. My mom bought me a Logitech. And so it's this old little computer game. And so it's about this big. Instead of a screen, I had one little line. And where the monitor goes, it was a book. And so at 9 years old, I taught myself how to code DOS. And I was hooked. I was like, all I got to do is tell it to do this. And it'll make a game for me.
Being,
yeah.
That's not everyone's cup of tea, I don't think, but like, I love how you were hooked.
Yeah, a 9-year-old over here learning how to code DOS. Okay, 10, print this, run.
and then did you do anything with that as like like technical after like college, university?
So yes, so
Yeah.
even then in middle school, I did some animation classes. On to high school, did coding, more animation, did Visual Basics. At DeVry, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to computer information. And I started with computer science. That was my first degree. After about 3 semesters into that, they told me my first career I'd be crawling around on the ground plugging up PBX boxes. And I was like, wait, no, I want to work on
Yeah.
the computer. I don't want to build the computers. No. So switched to business, but then at the community college did computer information systems and business, and then at
Cool.
Azusa
And
did
then
web and
so
information technology.
you're helping people with their businesses. You started your own business. How what was the next moves forward then? So how did the consulting go? How is it going? What's the current, so like what stage are we in here then? Is this what's the timeline again? Sorry.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so now I'm about 2011, and I'm working with different companies. I have that for about a couple years, and the STEM education stuff started taking off. And I would partner up with youth groups and go speak and do presentations to kids. My sister's been in education as long as I know. She just got her doctorate now, and I would go and do like projects with kids there. But then I was like, okay, I can go now do
Mhm.
deals with school districts and what have you, and I would go speak and talk with youth and just love that mentoring and being able to pour back into different lives and show them, yes, here's a woman, a Black woman who looks like you or who comes from some of the neighborhoods you've come through, and this is what I'm doing. And their eyes would just saucers. Okay, so what does this mean? How do I do this? And it was just amazing. And so that was my first company. And as people, it started to spread what I was doing in my consulting. I've helped others launch their companies, like Global Immersive Virtual Education System, working with Christopher Lafayette, helping him build the Black Technology
Is that how you
Mentorship
met
Program.
Chris?
And so just,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Because I was meaning to ask. Yeah. Because I was
You're
meaning
like,
to
you're
ask.
putting
I
the
didn't really
pieces
get a
together.
chance to ask Chris on the podcast, but so how did you guys meet, and so how is that that like relationship gone into what it is now with all the different foundations that you guys are involved in?
Yes, definitely. So when I was building the Global Immersive Virtual Education System with 2 other gentlemen, one of my partners there was like, "Oh, you need to meet Christopher Lafayette. He's doing this. He's an amazing global speaker." So we met once virtually, and then a couple years went by. We didn't talk or anything. We were doing different projects. And then a couple years later, he reached out and was like, I remember you from working back with Mike back in the day. I'm building the Black Technology Mentorship Program. And he shared with me his vision. I have a knack for once someone shares with me their vision and I can see it, I can build out the whole company with my eyes closed. And that's pretty much what I did. And so he was the voice and the networker and the speaker in that Black Technology Mentorship Program. When people needed to know how it ran or how to do anything within it, you need to go talk to Diane. He's like, she built it, she knows, go. And so, and we have a very amazing working relationship. We both know our strong suits and we both know our weaknesses. I don't try to touch my weakness because that's what he does. I don't need to do it. And so the same goes for him. He's like, okay, Diane, just let me know the pieces I need to know. Because when you build out a company, I build out like a whole empire. It's like Oz. He's like, I'll get lost in everything you built. He's like, I don't need to know all of it, just the high levels, so I can do what my part. And so we work very well. And after that, I was on a TV show a couple years ago called 4 Days to Save the World, and CEOs from all over the world got put together, and we were supposed to solve a social issue: climate change, suicide, cancer, racism. I was put on climate change, and we had 4 days to come up with a viable business solution. My team was one of 3 who won, but we never got funded. And it was just frustrating going through that process. And I was like, I'm going to create my own
Nice.
foundation and do this myself. So I created the Impact Innovation Foundation. And my goal is to not only fund companies that are doing a social impact that's also viable, but make sure when they get the funding, they have all the pre-steps they need to be successful. the education, the business plan, the risk assessments, the validation, testing it out, going out there and saying, okay, this isn't going to work, or it is, before they even get that $1 million check to actually build it out. And so we educate, support, and do that startup traction funding so that they're prepared, put research around it, and then we package it so that VCs now are no longer saying, that's a risk, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah,
They have the full package to
I
see
can
what they've
imagine
done.
that a lot
And
of
they're like,
VCs want to
yes.
stay away from that stuff because of the lack of experience, because of the high risk, because a lot of these foundations have really great causes, but they're not really driven sometimes by a business person. And they're given, like, as you said, like $1 million, 2 million,
Right.
and then it ends up being wasted because they just
It's
don't
just
know what you
wasted.
don't know, right? So, and then that's where you guys come in.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so even though we're a nonprofit, we work with for-profit companies, getting them up to where they need to be and really packaging them and presenting them as, we're doing an impact, we're viable, we're making money, and we are
Cool.
lucrative
Very
for
cool.
investors.
And how is that? How is Chris involved in that? Because I know he's got a foundation as well that slips my mind. Are you both Gatherverse Ventures? Yeah.
Gatherverse Ventures. Yes, so Gatherverse Ventures and we call it IF for short, Impact Innovation Foundation. Gatherverse Ventures and IF have come together to create the Human Capital Initiative. And so what we're doing is we are now looking to raise $300 million over the course of 3 years to be able to run the education and fellowship programs, be able to do that startup traction funding along with that research piece, package them and prepare them for when they're going to go out and pitch to VCs. And so the way that we're looking to raise that is we are going to have VC pledge partners, investor pledge partners, or company pledge partners. They come in and say, we want to pledge X amount of money into the Human Capital Initiative. The first 20% comes to IF as a tax deductible donation to run the program. The other 80%, IF never touches, we never see it, it doesn't go on our accounts, but it is allocated for when those startups are ready and finished, that 80% is now allocated to be invested
Very
directly
interesting.
into those startups.
Okay, nice. So, what else is there that people need to know about, like, you as a person, you as a businesswoman? What is, like, the next 3 to 5 years looking like for you? I know it's.
Oh my gosh, the next 3 to 5 years.
I can't.
Okay,
When
so
people ask me that, I have got no idea. I'm like, man, I'm trying to make it past breakfast tomorrow.
So I currently have 4 companies. If is one of them, that's my nonprofit. Diane Tucker Inc. I've incorporated my name. That's where people hire me as a fractional CEO or COO to run their company, or they hire me as a business consultant. I also have Divine Light Capital, where I do private money lending for real estate investors, those that look to fix and flip. I'm the access to money that they need. And then I still have DMISSI, Divine Movement Making Successful Individuals. So in the next 3 to 5 years, if I'm really hoping that things take off as far as getting it going and building out our programs in 2024, and then having those cohorts going through our program over the next 3 years and getting that funding into them, getting them built. Diane Tucker, I have currently 2 clients now, but looking to scale in the next 3 to 5 years to have being able to take on a good 20 clients at a time. That's our capacity we can do. In everything I do, my mission and goal is to help others be successful. And that's the underlying line of all of my companies. Under Divine Light Capital, I'm really looking to really have an impact in that real estate space and having properties throughout the nation for those that really can't afford the areas that they're in, but that can actually rent out or work with me on deals to be able to get their first home. And then the K through 12 piece is we really want to be in about 3 to 4 school districts. We have a new virtual education program called Solutions. And what it does is it marriages the 3 R's, writing, arithmetic, reading, writing, and arithmetic with the 4 C's of communication, critical thinking, all the new age stuff. And so it's too cool to have books, but everybody's walking around with one of these. And so they have their digital library in there. They're doing book reports. I grew up in the book it days where you read a book and you got a personal pan pizza. That was me.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
Yes, Yes, right? And so now they read a book, they do a book report, but it's not a standard book report. Instead of doing the plot, the characters, can you take this book and turn it into a movie script or comic book strip? Something innovation. And so we improved their reading, writing, we closed the learning gap, we erased the COVID side. And so looking to have that in about 3 to 5 different school
Sounds like
districts
you're going to
throughout
be
the nation.
extremely busy. I feel,
Yeah.
I feel like you just spouted off like 5 things there and just, yeah.
You
Yeah,
asked.
yeah, I guess you're right. But like, how is, I know I keep bringing it back to the pain and stuff, but I feel like you're very good at masking it right now, because from our first call you told me that even like right today, like on that call, you were in pain. What is going on in
Oh,
terms
I'm
of
hurting
like
now.
your health today, and have they given you any like any idea of how you can move forward pain free in the future, or like what are you trying, like holistic stuff?
If you go the Western medicine route, they want to drill a hole in my head and put a tube from my head to my stomach to drain fluid. Not going to happen. So no, thank you. I'll pass. The holistic route, I have found an acupuncturist in San Diego. Um, Being in the San Francisco Bay Area, trying to get down to San Diego once a month, sometimes difficult. But I have found someone
Mm-hmm.
down there who's actually helping. Pretty much, he's resetting my nervous system because my nervous system is attacking my body because it's under so much pain. So my body's attacking itself. So it's resetting the nervous system and then also helping drain the fluid out of my head naturally. I used to do lumbar punctures 2 times a week. I'd call them spa days. People thought I was losing it because they'd put a hole in my back and I'd be like, oh,
Only
I can
you
see
would
the
call that
leaves
a
on the
spa
tree now.
day. Jeez Louise.
Did, but I had to stop
Yeah.
because it was starting to build up scar tissue in my back. And one guy was trying to do it. I was like, no, go about a half an inch down there. I know it's hard. Keep going. He's like, whoa, you know your body. Yes, just push through. He's like, but I just go. So no more lumbar punctures, but I go the natural route. I do acupuncture. I just
Yeah.
signed up at the Y to get
Yeah.
back into the pool. Water helps. When my husband and I had our honeymoon last year, we went to Hawaii and I was surfing on outriggers. I love the water. I can't swim all that well, but I love the water. And so when we're in the outrigger, I didn't feel all the pain. It's the second I stepped out of that boat on the sand,
So
I felt the
strange.
pain just hit me. And it's
That's so strange. And so in the
crazy.
water, no pain, floating
Yeah.
around, chilling, fine.
I'll feel some pain, but it's
Have you
not,
ever tried?
it'll be
Yeah,
like a 5.
you're 5. That's a 10 for me. Okay, great. I
You're
know
like,
your
yeah,
pain
uh-huh.
threshold now after talking to you. But yeah.
It is
So have
extremely
you ever
high.
tried float tanks? Have you ever looked into anything like that?
No, I haven't done that because they turn the lights out and they close you in a room. I heard about PTSD until and didn't know
Hmm.
like how bad it can really jack you up. I hardly ever share this with people. I had to have my shoulders had shoulder spurs, and I fell them down about 8 years ago at San Francisco UCSF, and they did not check my medical file before giving me medication after surgery. You cannot give fentanyl to someone who has a brain tumor, head injury, and 3 other things. I had all 5. I stopped breathing. I had dry mouth. Um, it was a bad episode after they gave me fentanyl. He's my husband, but my boyfriend at the time, I could hear them asking him questions that they should have probably asked beforehand, and they asked after it. And I would dip out. I couldn't speak, open my eyes, but I could hear everything. And then I'd come to and I'd be like, call my dad. And then I'd dip back out. And a couple years later, I thought I was fine until I went to go visit a friend in the hospital. And I had a panic attack. My mom and I were going to go visit her best friend in the hospital. The smell, the sound, I started losing it. And I didn't know what was going on. And I called my dad in the waiting room. He's like, sweet, that's a panic attack. And so it took I had to go to counseling and all that. for a couple years, I couldn't go in a doctor's office, which is difficult when you're going through a lot of health issues. And I
Whoa.
was like, I am not going in there. So I'm doing a lot better. Dry mouth still sometimes is a mini trigger. But when they're like, yeah, we're going to shut you in this room and we're going to close
Yeah,
you in this tank.
no.
Yeah, no, not signing up for that.
I can now, yeah. Good. Yeah. You'd be banging it
I'd
down,
break it.
kicking it through.
Get me out. But I have tried, I don't know if you've heard about it, the hyperbaric chambers. So I have done that. I can still see out and I'm good. I stay calm. So I've done that. I've got a little oxygen condenser sometimes that helps as well.
Ice baths? Because
My
I'm
mom and my
super
sister.
into, are you one of those people that hates cold water?
No, my husband keeps threatening to put me in one of them.
Really try that.
I tried.
The
we
plunge,
went to the spa and they had the cold dip. And I tried getting in the cold dip. Another thing that I developed is seizure-like shakes. I started shaking. So about 2 years ago, they were doing a test to see if I qualified for a stent.
Sorry, what is that?
And
a stent.
A stent
stents,
is with a stent. Yes. So they did the test to measure. So they ran the tube all past my heart and all that into my head. And when it got into my head, even though I was they put you out a little, they don't put you out, so I'm not out all the way. And I'm like, I can feel it in my head going through it. And they're like, you can't feel it. How are you gonna tell me I don't feel what I feel?
I can imagine you saying that to the guy right there. For the lady. She's like, you can't feel that.
And it hurt. And so I feel it trying. So the problem in the head is the arteries in my brain is 96% closed. So it's pinched and fluid backs up. So they're trying to see when they put the stent in how it would help with the flow. And so I feel them doing that test. That was about 3 years ago. After that test, sometimes when I get pinching pain back there, I have seizure-like shakes. And so different temperatures are going up a hill. And so they did testing and they're like, okay, you're not having seizures, but it looks like it. And so with temperature changing now, that I'm just like,
when your temperature changes rapidly, I guess that changes the size of the veins and the arteries a little bit. I don't know if somebody's probably going to fact check me on that. That might be that's my theory. Sorry, I don't know if that's a fact.
So that's why I've been kicking and screaming, saying no ice bath. So he will shoot me with the spray water bottle, though.
I do that to my cats when they're misbehaving.
Because I can't do the heat. Heat makes me worse. So when I'm really hot, I'll lay on the floor and he'll just shoot. And
it's a shame because the ice. Yeah. And is it something you actively look into? Like, is this something that you actively look into for like alternative medicine and stuff like that? Are you actively looking in?
I do. I look into that. I look into tea herbs because I'm really big into teas. Now we've done, because I'm going to the acupuncturist, he has me boiling herbs to drink. It looks like someone just went into the forest and scooped up some leaves and stuff and put it in the pot. I lie to you not. Bark, everything. But because I can't see him that much, he's like, I'm going to give you some herbs to kind of help do what the needles do. And so sometimes it'll help drain the fluid. So I drink it every day. It's horrific. My mom and my husband tried it. No one told them to, but said, I warned you.
Oh, man.
But it helps. So yeah, I do look up, every now and then I'm looking for new stuff because my body will build up a tolerance. So when things were going bad, valerian root tea would help calm the nerves.
So I think when we touched on before, when we had the first call, you said that you're a singer as well. Now, I'm a big believer that like doing things that you like really love can like sometimes put you out of not pain, but like, you know, when you're so caught up in something that you love so much that you kind of don't feel anything. I don't know with your level of pain whether that's even possible, but do you have anything in your life like singing or any of the other things you do like that brings it that kind of numbness or?
Believe it or not, the work
Mhm.
I do, I don't consider it work. It's a passion of mine, which is why I'm always doing it. And so people are like, Diane, have you taken a break? No, why? Because when I take a break, then I feel how much pain I'm in. Because when I'm working and building and structuring a company or consulting people, public speaking,
Yeah.
singing, I don't feel it. You're on a high. You're just like, yeah, I'm doing this. Being on stage, singing. Oh, and another thing, I love ceramics. In high
Yeah.
school and all that, I can wheel throw. I can sculpt. Matter of fact, in storage, I have a piece from about my shoulder up with me singing. Got my hair done. I did a whole head sculptor of myself. It's
Nice.
amazing. So I love clay.
Very nice. And do you do you like sing for like is that like on a I don't know how I'm gonna like do you do this like performing or is this like me in the shower just like screaming out Adele?
I used to work it.
You
Bathroom
do.
has the
The
best
only time I sound
acoustics. I'm
good.
not gonna lie. But I grew up in the church, so I would sing in the choir, but then I would do performing. I used to write. I haven't been in the studio recording since I was in my 20s. That was so awesome. So when I was on the TV show a couple years ago, I was like, man, I miss this because that speaking, that engagement, the entertainment, that's the route I thought I would go. But I was like, yeah, no,
Unless you make it big,
not a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
money
yeah.
in that unless you're like
Yeah,
Oprah,
she's done it right.
Whitney.
She did a little bit. But
A little
you're
bit.
saying about the work. So like work doesn't feel like are you one of those people then that could be a workaholic in terms of like not in the bad like I think workaholic gets like a bad rap these days because people it really does like I don't want to
Excuse
label the
me?
new generation with something because I feel that's unfair because the old generation's always labeling the new generation with some like stereotypical they don't work as hard as us kind of thing I don't I don't want to do that because,
Right.
yeah
They'll
I
never know.
God knows what the ancient Greeks would be thinking of everyone now. Then, so if that is the case, but yeah, I feel like it gets like a bad rap. But like, are you one of those people that just enjoys work so much that you don't even consider it as work?
Yeah, so what I do, I don't consider this as work. But if I was doing something else and just that's what I did every day, 9 to 5, I was an
Mm.
accountant, I'd probably go stir crazy and be like, okay, no, I'm clocking out, I'm done. But for me, what I'm doing, I don't consider it monotonous. It's helping others, it's bringing life, it's improving lives.
Yeah,
And
that's.
I
I
find
think
joy in it.
if anyone is listening to this, I think that is like a really interesting point to try and hit on that trying to find something that you actually trying to find something to do for the rest of your life that you really really enjoy is so important because we spend what 10
Yes.
hours a day either commuting to work or actually at work altogether combined like easily 10 to 12 hours a day so when you break that down that
Mm-hmm.
is a huge period of your life that you spend working and not everyone has the luxury of having their dream job I guess but how would how would
Right.
you maybe I don't know advise somebody to find their passion to find that dream job like how did you find it and how did you like sculpt this out with all the stuff that you've even had happen to you.
Well, I didn't get here on my own. Like I said, I had amazing people in my life. I would, one, seek out mentors or people who can guide and counsel you. Even when I was at college, the dean of the School of Business took me under her wing. Dr. Eileen Beshian, amazing woman. In high school, I had two teachers and a counselor who took me under their wings and like, you need to sign up for the Future Business Leaders of America. What? So I did. And so just all along my path, just having people that not only spoke into my life, but took me under their wings, they saw something. So I would recommend people to find someone that you look up to, that you can have mentor you, coach you, give you guidance. But then also, if there's ideas that you have, even sharing with a family member or friend, someone that can say, oh, okay, I can see this going here. Having some cheerleaders in your corner never hurts. And then don't be stuck into, well, I've got to make ends meet, so I have to do my 9 to 5. Yes, you have to do your 9 to 5, but that doesn't stop you from also spending a couple hours here or there on the weekend to
Yeah.
start mapping out your plan. What do you want to do? How can you achieve it? What route do you need to go? And even if you've got kids or whatnot, corral them in and be like,
Yeah.
okay, can you help mom do some research on this? And so you're not feeling like you're alone doing it. A lot of people get isolated in their own island and feel like I'm on my own, I can't do it. When you start building a village
Yeah,
around
that's
you,
great advice. I
it's
think,
amazing how far you
like
can go.
use what you have. Like that's like a classical entrepreneurial line, I guess. Like, whatever you've got around you, everyone's got something around them that they can try and
Yes.
utilize in some way. And I think the point you touched on with people spending time outside of work on their hobby, like on that passion or on that side hustle or on that side business is so important, because I feel like there's so many distractions in the world where people spend a lot, well, sorry, not spend, they waste a lot of time. Like, because it is hard. You work a 9 to 5 job, especially if it's manual labor, even in an office, it's mentally draining. And when you come home from work, sometimes the last thing you want to do is have to sit in front of a computer again for another 4 hours and maybe skip dinner because you're doing it. But when people say this
Right.
to me, I always think, but what's the alternative? Like, is the alternative just working that 9 to 5 for the rest of your life? Because that is the alternative if you don't do it.
That is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're at is where
And
you
I
always will
feel
be
like
then.
that's a worse fate
Yeah.
to suffer than going through the grind of, those extra 4 hours a night. And to be honest with you, that's like, for me personally, that is like the thing that pushes me towards everything, is the thought of not being able to do it, or like the scary thought of being like, oh man, when I'm 40, if I'm still here, like, how will I feel then? And like, that should be the motivation to push people forward, in my opinion. Like,
Yep.
I wish I had that voice when I was 20, because I'd be like 20 steps ahead of where I am now. But I think I was too busy having fun, like most 20-year-olds. But moving on. So where do people, like, so you're talking about your consultancy business, like, where can people find more about your consultancy business, and maybe give me your elevator pitch, because I love consultancy stuff. I'm big into like coaching, consultancy, and stuff like that. And I know you said you weren't a salesperson, but yeah, but that's what,
I am
honestly, the
not.
best salespeople,
I
the
am
best
not.
salespeople are the
That is
most
not
genuine
my
people.
lane.
So I think you'd be an extremely good salesperson by just being genuine. But if if, if someone
Thank you.
was to ask you, like, Diane, like, okay, I'm starting a podcast. I'm going to use me as an example, and I'm turning it into a business. Like, but my operations, oh, man, I probably need you, because my girlfriend has to help me with all of my operations, because I'm so unorganized. So unorganized, it's unbelievable. It's like painful to be in my brain. I'm that unorganized. How would how you're trying to laugh. How would yeah, how do you go
Sorry,
into a
it
company
was.
then and help them with operations and stuff like that? What does that look like?
Well, my first step is I need to get to know the person, not the business. Who is it that I'll be working with? How do they work? How do they receive information? Um, what sets them off? What are they passionate about? When I can get to know the person, then I want to learn about, okay, what's your business? What are you doing? How are you doing it
Yeah.
right now? What are you frustrated with? What are your pain points? And so being able to mirror how they work, how they think, with, okay, these are the businesses, and I assess what's going on. Okay, let me spend a day with you
Cool.
and shadow you and see how you're running your podcast. Okay, where are you keeping information stored? How are you knowing who you're speaking to next?
If anyone's watching, I was just pointing to my head, and Diane's like, where are you keeping all that information? Yeah. Why can't you sleep at night? Well, it's because it's all in my head,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And so having that techie background, I can build them out the system to stay organized, project manage, reminders, what have you. And if they have a team, how do they collaborate and speak within the
Cool.
systems? I build all that out for them. I also write out processes and run it as if I'm doing it for them, because I need to see it. I need to be in the seat to say, okay, I did this, and this is not working. I'm going to switch this just a little bit here. And so I actually come in and learn all aspects of the business and help you run it with you so I can see it for a couple of days and then start building out processes and what have you. Some people hire me just to build it out and then train people that they have. Others have hired me out to build it, train it, and run it. So I oversee 3 companies in Massachusetts, even though I'm in California. And so that's my route about going with it, is starting with that relationship building, because every company's different, every person's different. I can't go in and say, okay, this is my structure and I follow this model.
And
it's not
do you have
any?
any, because as I said, I'm going to use me as the example here and get some free coaching.
I love it. Yeah, we're just gonna slide this in. Okay, Diane,
Yeah,
how would you do this for
really
my friend?
struggling with this thing, man. Like, no, but on the operation standpoint, do you have like? I know people love Notion. I don't know if you've heard of the software, but like, do you have like a particular
I've heard of Notion
software or anything you work with, or is it like you just jump into whatever the entrepreneur or the company has and you just work with that?
I go a couple of routes. If they have a complex, unique company that has not been done before, it's not going to fit in HubSpot. It's not going to fit in Notion. I will build out their own customized system for them. I've done that before. But one of the ones that I love going to that's easy, it's free to start out, it's easy for people who have no technology background to use, Asana is my go-to. That's one that I love too, especially people with ADD and that have no technology background. That is just perfect for them. And so thank you, kudos, Asana.
That could have been a really good advert for Asana. Then I'm just going to click that and send it to them.
Royalties. And so then so I go about it 2 different ways. So some people it can be cookie cutter where I can use a software that's already out there. Others I need to build a whole intranet with a project management backend system.
So you have a website for your coaching. So where can they find you on
DianeInTucker.com. And they can find everything I do on that site. So all my other companies are found on there as well.
And the Impact Innovation Fund is also on that same website, or has that got a separate entity completely?
It is on that website, but you can go to impactinnovationfoundation.org.
And who are the people that you're looking for, like specifically for that foundation? Is it investors that you're looking for as well, or is it the people that are thinking about a nonprofit, or the people that have the idea of a nonprofit, or is it both people?
Okay, so we're a nonprofit, but we work with for-profit startups or entrepreneurs, innovators, so they don't have to be a nonprofit to be one of our cohorts. We are accepting people to pre-apply for our education programs. You have to finish our programs to be able to apply for funding. And we're also looking for donors, company donors, or pledge partners that can be investors, VC capital, venture funds, and also companies.
So we're coming up to the final few minutes. I just want to say thank you so much. I was like, when I was prepping this one, I literally just finished the podcast like probably 20 minutes before this one. Super tired. I was thinking, I don't know if I can do this one. And honestly, that was going on in my brain. I was like, man, I'm so tired. And I am now like,
right.
You have such an unbelievable energy around you, and you bring out energy in people that is just, it's crazy. You're such a wonderful, lovely person. So I want to say thank you. I've had a great time. So people can find you at Diane Tucker, right? So they can find you on LinkedIn. They can find you via your website. Dan, I just want to say thank you very much for talking to me. Cool. All right.
My pleasure.
Guys, we'll wrap it up on that one. If you need to, you should go and find Diane. So search her up. Her story is crazy. Go check her out.